If you know why public speaking is important to your profession and to maybe civic organizations as a whole, the next step in public speaking classes is usually to give your first speech. Now, again, I'm referencing Dr. Stephen Lucas's The Art of Public Speaking, and I am putting his chapters together in an order that might be different from the way that he would do it. It's okay. I've never met the guy in person, but I'm sure Dr. Lucas is an extremely intelligent person. I just would have written the book maybe in a different order, which does sometimes happen with professional speakers, public speakers, professors of speaking. Any of those people might put things in a different order. So for me, I choose to do giving your first speech. So chapter 1 and then I do chapter 4. Okay, so giving your first speech. Speech development, usually our first speeches in every college that I've taught at, every university that I've taught at, the first speech is about yourself. So we need to focus on fitting the speech to the time limit. And of course, we'll talk about time limits later in the class, but really the important thing is to get it done during the appropriate time frame, because if you speak too long, you're going to take up time that the next speaker would have, and if you speak too short, people are going to be wondering what to do with their time. Developing a topic that is creative and using colorful descriptive language. If you noticed here, I did not start out this video by saying, "Hi, my name is Dr. Heidi, and today I'm going to talk to you about..." The reason I didn't do that is because I want you to remember the subject of my speech first. I want to draw you in first, and I want to use more colorful language and something more creative than what other people are doing.
The spotlight shines, the music blares, the crowd cheers. The colors, bright and vibrant, bleed together as Alexa and her dance partner sail across the dance floor. Her partner touches her hand and her waist, but only briefly. He then spins her away and she glides across the dance floor in what seems like a single motion. Alexa has worked many weeks for this moment. Alexa, you see, is a championship ballroom dancer.
That is a wonderful example of the use of colorful language. You notice how she didn't say, "Oh, I want to tell you about Alexa. Alexa is a champion ballroom dancer." No, she used language to describe what ballroom dancing was like and to really draw us into the speech. And then she told us Alexa is a ballroom dancer.
The spotlight shines, the music blares, the crowd cheers. The colors, bright and vibrant, bleed together as Alexa and her dance partner sail across the dance floor. Her partner touches her hand and her waist, but only briefly. The spotlight shines, the music blares, the crowd cheers. The colors, bright and vibrant, bleed.
Okay, so you can also tell there that she used not only creative language, but colorful language, trying to create a visual image of the actual scenario that her subject was part of. Okay, so in the introduction, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, you want to gain the attention and interest of your audience and orient your listeners to the subject matter. So when you're trying to draw people into a speech, you don't necessarily want to just say, "So today my speech is going to be about blah, blah, blah." Who cares? Draw us in. Take us down the dusty road that leads to the home that you grew up in. Let us smell the corn growing along the sides of the road. Or down the busy highway in Cairo, Egypt, next to the pyramids, the Sphinx being almost in your backyard. Either one of those would draw us more into the speech than, "Hi, my name is Heidi, and my speech is going to be about..." You've already bored your listeners, and they're probably not going to pay attention, especially if they're in the classroom where they have to listen to a number of self-introduction speeches. They aren't going to remember yours if your introduction doesn't draw them in. And then, of course, your introduction should orient your listeners to the subject matter. Next is the body of the speech. We will, of course, delve into these pieces of the speech as we go along. But for now, in giving your first speech, you want to make sure that you select an effective method of organization so that your speech is easy to follow. Limit the focus and number of main points. Try not to cover your entire life story in 2 to 3 minutes for your first speech. It's just really not possible. And then include transition statements. Help people to move from one place to the next. If you're going to talk about your childhood and then you're going to move into your high school or teenage years, you want to help people to move from one place to the next, from one part of your life to another. And then, of course, you also want to conclude the speech. When you are concluding a speech, you signal the conclusion, you reinforce the central idea, and then you end on a strong note. Ending on a strong note is not, that's it, that's all I have to say, that's me in a nutshell. Those are not strong conclusions. Strong conclusions are very similar to the introduction where you drew people in. In the conclusion, you want to send people off with a message that they're going to remember. So this might be saying something about yourself again, or this might even be when you say your name. People are more likely to remember the last thing you said. So if you say, this has been the life history or the life story of Heidi Gugisberg Connors, Dr. Heidi, people are going to remember your name more so than even anything that you said in the rest of the speech. They will remember the clincher longer than anything else. So if you say, in conclusion, I have covered the different parts of Dr. Heidi's life, blah, who cares? You might say, I've explored how auctioneering school, a PhD and 2 master's degrees, and her high school years really made Dr. Heidi who she is today. That's something you're going to remember. When you're giving a speech, we often teach in public speaking class extemporaneous speaking, which is carefully prepared. It is a rehearsed speech, but it is presented from brief notes. So I am not asking for you to write out the entire speech. I am not asking for you to speak from memory. I want you to use note cards. Beginning speakers, even if you have some experience with speaking, beginning speakers often do best if they speak from a keyword outline, brief notes that they put on note cards, like it says here, extemporaneous speaking. And then there is an example of an extemporaneous speech. I'm not going to play that here, but if you want an extemporaneous example, you are certainly welcome to take a look. When you are getting ready for your speech, if you've ever been to a speech competition for high school or college, you'll find a bunch of people talking to themselves. They're talking to the wall, they're talking to their friends. The reason that they're doing this is that they're practicing out loud. So they rehearse out loud, then they ask family and friends for feedback, and then, of course, during all this practice, they time their speech to make sure it fits in the time frame allotted. When you are ready to present a speech, for the first time, I would definitely recommend that you plant your feet and smile to the audience. After a while, you can add in motivated movement, moving around the room, making eye contact with everyone. You do always want to gesture naturally. Of course, establish and maintain eye contact. Try to look at 3 friendly faces in the audience. That should help to make eye contact here, make eye contact here, and make eye contact over here. So everybody in the audience feels included. You want to speak expressively and take steps to reduce your nervousness. Those are the steps like we talked about in chapter 1. Systematic desensitization, cognitive restructuring, visualization, all of those things should help to ease your anxiety. And then there is a sample introductory speech. At least a couple of them in Dr. Lucas's book. and a couple of them in the PowerPoint that has been provided to you. If you don't have access to this PowerPoint, it's okay. Go ahead and Google or internet search for a self-introductory speech, and I'm sure you will find one. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll be prepared to listen to your first speech.